This is Nick Barrow with part 3 of Terry's Dartfish video analysis. Now let's have a look at the next shot. Is that me or Terry? That's me. Now this is using the 360 Pure Q trainer. Now what we'll see is from the side-on view, I just want to see that the difference between this cue is that it's got a spring in the joint, which means if there's any unwanted forces in the cue, through 360 degrees the spring will break and you won't be able to play the shot properly, plain and simple. It's great fun to use, and it's not too sensitive either, so you can actually hold the cue with your normal tension, but anything over and above that unnecessarily will cause the cue to break. So let's see what happens here. Let's go half speed to observe things a bit more carefully. Side on view. Is the cue speeding up toward the end of the backswing here? Let's just check that. Yes, it is. Yes, and you can see there's a downward force obviously on the hand there, which is causing the cue to break in this direction somewhat. So this is half speed again. Let's see. I don't cue on the chest, so that makes it a bit easier to hold the cue intact without breaking the spring. But because the cue is changing direction very gradually, okay, just at the end when the cue maybe contacted my chin, but that was about it. I think this is using the 360 again. Let's see what happens with Terry on this yellow. Well, that's a bit sideways. I think the elbow went into the pocket before the yellow there. I think that's what was called playing with your shoulder. Actually, the cue remained intact if that is indeed the 360. Not sure it is actually. This is another one. Yes, this is the 360 actually. Yeah, you can see that breaking toward the end there, can't you? So there's more tension than needs to be, some unwanted forces in the cue toward the end of the delivery. Let's have a look here. The key point is at the end of the backswing, if there's any unwanted forces, is the cue bending at the end of the back? Yes, well, yes, there it is bending actually, which shows there's unwanted forces in the hand toward the end of the backswing, which is quite common, especially if the backswing speeds up toward the end of the backswing. It's almost like gearing up to play the shot and tensing up to play the shot, and that's when those unwanted forces will come into the butt of the cue at that point, and then it will break the spring on the 360. But it's an invaluable feedback tool, the best I've ever seen. There you go, you see. So there's quite a lot of forces in the hand during the delivery, and perhaps more than there needs to be. What you can keep in mind is what I found is after using this cue for a while, probably 4 sessions, 20 minutes, an hour, half an hour each, something like that, I found when I made my delivery, my hand was much lighter around the cue, and whereas previously I would have easily broken a hard-boiled egg with the power in my hand at the end of the delivery on a shot of this power, now probably I could hold a raw egg in my hand without breaking it, without breaking the shell at the end of a delivery with this amount of power. So, in other words, you could replace the cue, the butt of the cue, with an egg in my hand, and it wouldn't break. So that's how loose I am on. This cue has helped me to become, and I feel I'm hitting the ball much more cleanly. Is this the 360? I believe it is. Let's see if this remains fixed or broken. What I personally found is at the back here, previously I used to have a lot of tension there, and I used to pull the cue up into my chin, and then my shoulders used to tense up to compensate for the fact my chin was being pushed up, and so everything is much lighter now. But I found I needed using this cue forced me to devote a little bit more time to the disconnection of the backswing and the delivery, in terms of I was able to, or my hand was forced to, or it came up with a conclusion of slowing down toward the end a bit more gradually, so that I was more in control of my muscles, changing gear in a bit more time, maybe 20%, 30% longer stop at the backswing, gear change at the backswing, then gradually building up the cue speed very slowly, very smoothly, and that allowed me to go through that transition phase, through the gear change phase, which is quite complex. I mean, there are a lot of muscles stopping working on the backswing, and to re-instruct the arm to start delivering the cue, there's a lot of instructions, there's a lot of muscles being activated there, and for me to do it under control, I needed that little bit extra time to allow my hand to do that in a state of relaxation. With tension I could do it much more quickly than that, but then that of course brings a lot of extra forces into the cue, tension in my arm, and a less smooth, lower quality delivery. Yeah, this is the 360 on this shot. I think the previous shot was my normal cue. So let's see what happens here. Well, not comfortable, so getting up from the shot. Good discipline to anyone who's watching there. If you can have the discipline to do that, if you're not comfortable, then a feather in your cap, that is. So again, very loose at the back, not pulling it up against the chin. Very gradual build up of speed from 0 through to 1 mile an hour, 2, 3, 4. Very slight bend just as the cue is going through into the chin there, I think. This is half speed on the slow motion, so this is probably about quarter speed to how I'd normally be moving the cue. Again, it's not pushing, it's grazing the chin, it's not pushing up against the chin, which is the huge difference that I noticed. I'd been doing that for years and being self-conscious about it. Now what you can see here, unique camera angle here, if we just reverse that, and this is showing the speed of the slowing down of the backswing from a different angle, which I think highlights what I'm talking about very clearly. Now if we go backwards here, alright, I'm going to go frame advance extremely slowly. So there's Terry at the cue ball position with the grip. Just watch Terry's fingers opening up very nicely. They open up very nicely toward the end of the backswing. What they're doing is fine, they're loose enough. Alright, this elbow's slightly out, but that's nothing really to worry about. I mean, that sort of range, 10 degrees or less, is going to give you a pretty accurate delivery. Anything else could be diminishing return and splitting hairs. But let's have a look.